I was also thinking, like, Auckland FC aren't paying Wellington Phoenix for Alex Paulson. But in theory, the same ownership group just paid a massive transfer fee to get Paulson to Bournemouth. So in a roundabout way, Auckland FC have just, forked out cash for Alex Paulson. So there's like still, because you can think, well, this is pretty shitty for the Wellington Phoenix. Like, they just lost their goalkeeper to the new Auckland A-League team. It's like, well, that happened. True, but the Wellington Phoenix development system is awesome. So there's another goalkeeper from Aotearoa ready to step up, and they made a lot of money from it to fund that development system with lots of
the amount
Kiwis
of money
coming through.
that probably pays for their entire operations for the next season. Like, it's probably all covered by the Alex Paulson sale. And they also sold Finn Sermon, Ben Old, and let's not forget Macy Fraser as well from that club. So I think they did all right out of the deal. They're not like innocent victims in the matter. They got something pretty valuable in return.
I was thinking about this and weaving this into the Breakers stuff, and I kind of did because is Auckland FC signing too many Kiwis now that they've got the addition of Nando Peinecker unofficially, and this
who they did pay a fee for, by the way. They paid an actual transfer fee for him. He only had like 3 months left on his contract, so I don't think we're talking Paulson money there. But they did pay for him. They stumped up some cash. They wrote a check.
And that, got to be careful saying this, but are the Wellington Phoenix signing too many Japanese players? Because they've just signed two.
Well, Auckland FC got one too.
But the Wellington Phoenix got two in the last few weeks, right?
Yep, so they have signed multiple Japanese. I've got to have.
Yeah, so all of that is just like
the names while
all of that's just me having a giggle. Like, it's obviously not true because we want Auckland FC to have as many Kiwis as possible for that connection to community, and also Wellington Phoenix. They're just trying to, like, from an uneducated perspective, they're just trying to sign dudes who can roll through any kind of midfieldy position with some attacking flair, which to me seems kind of similar to the Warriors. You got a lot of forwards, whether it's Leka Halasima, Dimitri Sifakula, Jackson Ford, Marata Neokore. Like, they can play edge middle, Mitchell Barnett. They can all play edge or middle, and the man behind me, Ali Leotawaj, can genuinely play any backline position. So it seems like the Wellington Phoenix, they're under Chiefy. He's refreshing his attacking system with players that he really wants, who can cover multiple positions. Because, like, sometimes when you're pressing or you've got the footy, you're going to find yourself out on the right side of the field. And if you're a pigeonholed left side of the field, but you're playing in that system and you end up on the right side of the field, you might not know what you're doing. But if you've got the skill set and the versatility, you can play just as well on the right side as you can on the left side, as you can in the middle, as you can holding midfielder, as you can maybe a second striker. So to me, there's quite two big themes there with Auckland FC and the Wellington Phoenix. The Wellington Phoenix, they're signing a lot of Japanese players, but they're signing a lot of players who can cover multiple positions at a high level. And they're all mature. Aside from the youngster from up north, they're all mature lads, so they are comfortable with the weekly grind and being able to roll through those positions. Auckland FC, credit to them, they are going above and beyond to sign Kiwi footballers. As you said, they paid a transfer fee for young Nando. That's just an awesome sign for a new franchise in the A-League on the back of this Wellington Phoenix success last season. What do you make of those two kind of overarching themes with the recent news coming out of Wellington Phoenix and Auckland FC?
Yeah, the Phoenix stuff is fascinating right now because we have last season to compare it to, and last season's version of the Phoenix was the most successful version of the Phoenix we've ever seen, but it was a defensively sound team. It was the best defense in the A-League. They conceded the fewest goals. They just had fantastic, underlying numbers. They had the best goalkeeper. They had defenders, centre-backs just making clearances, blocking shots, doing all them good things. They allowed a lot of shots, and yet they conceded so few goals. Like, they they forced opponents into lower percentage opportunities, and then did just enough going forward. They've lost Alex Paulson, they've lost Finn Sermon, they've also lost Ben Old, who wasn't a defensive player, but was one of their very important transitional players. So growing from defense into attack, he was one of the guys who linked that up with his, drop deep, collect the ball, dribble it forward. Um, that's a lot to have to rebuild around, and they have. I mean, I suspected this anyway, but I think it's now pretty abundantly clear from the quotes that Chiefy's been throwing out there is he doesn't expect this team to be able to necessarily just repeat the formula from last season. He doesn't necessarily, well, at least he's not putting his eggs in the basket of saying, well, we'll just get a goalkeeper as good as Paulson, a centre back as good as Sermon, and someone who can dribble like Old, and then just do that again. In order for this team to stay at the level they want to be at, they're trying to find more balance so that it's like, well, maybe we can't be as good defensively as we were last season, but we can certainly be a lot better on attack, and maybe that can be a net gain in the long run. So yeah, I think this is fascinating because the players that they're signing, like Marco Rojas, they've signed him, extended Costa Barbarouses, but obviously he was already there. Paulo Retre, Luke Brooks-Smith, Josh Oluwayemi, the new goalkeeper, Dublin Boone is a scholarship goalkeeper, but Kazuki Nagasawa and Hideki Ishige as well, the two Japanese players. Yeah, very versatile. All these guys can play multiple positions, Retre, Rojas included. I hadn't thought about it, that other point that you mentioned, but you're right. They are both, like, Rojas is 32, Retre is 31, Nagasawa 31, Ishige 29. Oluwayemi is 23 and Luke Brooks-Smith is 16, so slight difference there. And Dublin Boone's 19; he's a scholarship player, but so is Brooks-Smith actually. But yeah, those are also experienced players who can play, not just play in multiple positions, but also probably can play through multiple situations because they've been there at high levels. They know what it takes when you're 1-0 down away from home, or they know how to hold a lead when you're 2-1 up at home with 5 minutes to go against a good team on attack, kind of thing. Or like they're players who'll be able to just roll with whatever the situation requires. And like, we'll think about one of the trends we saw from them last season was how sometimes their fullbacks would slot inside, or one of their midfielders would slot outside, and you sort of get into a bit of a back three type shape, or like Ben Old playing as almost like a wing back, or Sam Sutton as an inverted fullback. Well, Sam Sutton can be an inverted fullback because Sam Sutton has a midfield background, so he can play in the midfield anyway. So obviously he's fine slipping into it, that kind of position. Someone like Nagasawa, for example, is a holding midfielder, but he can play all over the place. So if he needs to drop into the defense to pick up the ball, he knows what that requires. If he needs to slide out wide to fullback to get in the ball to allow someone like Tim Payne. Again, Tim Payne's played every position in the book except goalkeeper. Like literally, he's played every position. There was a under-17 World Cup that he went to. I think he was still a striker back in those days. Now he's a fullback. Funny story about that is he actually played against Hideki Ishige, who scored the Japan knocked New Zealand out in the first round of the knockouts, won 6-0. Ishige got 2 goals and set up another one. So he had a bit of a blinder, and Tim Payne was on the opposite team. And now they're teammates, although they wouldn't have gone head-to-head because, yeah, Tim Payne would have been playing as an attacking midfielder or a striker. Now he's a centre-back, or now pretty emphatically now as a right back. So versatility throughout the place. Even Alex Rufer. Like, Alex Rufer seems like, without meaning this in a harsh way, he seems like the stodgiest player in the team, like the guy who has the strictest role kind of in that squad. But Alex Rufer, when he was playing under 20s, he was a striker as well. He's played as an attacking midfielder. He's steadily moved further back to become a defensive midfielder, which is clearly his best position. But even him, he's someone who's played other areas. Like there's a lot of versatility in this team, and that suggests to me Chiefy wants a fluid setup. He wants players who can drift into different positions and not necessarily stick into your emphatic shape. Don't really know whether we'll get that kind of, like, don't know what to expect from Auckland FC. I suppose we could look at some Steve Corica past stuff to get some ideas of that, but they are ultimately a blank slate. So we will have to wait and see. They were playing sort of like a 4-2-3-1 shape. I think they're looking at their team, probably need another import forward, definitely need I would say an import midfielder. I think with Nando Panika probably brings us to the end of their local signings. I just don't know whether you've still got 4 more open import spots at the moment. I don't know that there's really any more room for anyone else on top of that. Otherwise, your scholarship guys weren't worth signing because they're just never going to get to play if that's the case. Whereas the Phoenix, I think both teams are at 22 players, but the Auckland FC have signed a few extra scholarship guys. So the Phoenix, they might not be done, but whatever they've got left, I expect, because they filled out their import spots. I did see a cheeky rumor that maybe David Ball might not be back though. He did go an entire season without scoring a goal last year, so if that's performance related, I think that would be understandable. Even though Ball does offer a lot to the team in an experienced leadership kind of manner. But I think anything else the Phoenix do, unless something happens there with Ball, anything else the Phoenix do will just be upgrading scholarship players or, from their own academy. Whereas Auckland FC, I think probably they're done with scholarship and academy play and local players in general, but they do have a few import spots which they will need to fill. And when those start flying in, then we'll get an idea of where the team are at and sort of what they're going to look like.
The good thing about the Wellington Phoenix system is that all the youngsters coming through that system will be well versed in the style that Chief is trying to play. So he's trying to sign players who can do multiple roles, but then he's got this long list of youngsters who are already entrenched in how Chiefy wants to play and should be able to fill those roles off the bench throughout the season and in the coming years as well.